All right, everyone, welcome to this video where the objective is that students will be able to create a linear story, equation, and table when given a real-world linear function. Actually, that's a little bit of a lie. We'll be looking at more generic coordinate planes here. Quick mention on the notes, we're not going to do the table today in these graphs, so we will only take these graphs and we'll create an equation and we'll create a story. Maybe I'll do a table or two, but I don't, that's not the expectation today because there's a lot of fractions involved and I don't want the lesson to be end up how to add with fractions. So we have let me move myself out of the way here. We have a coordinate plane here. We have an x on the horizontal axis going side to side, y on the vertical axis going up and down. And we have a linear function on the graph. I know this is linear because it's a straight line, which represents a constant rate of change. And so if it's linear, I want to make an equation using y equals mx plus b. Okay. So my first step is going to be to identify b. B is the y-intercept. All right. So if I go to the y-axis, it's where do I intersect this line? Where do I go through it? And it's clearly right here at the 2. All right. So we go through at the 2, the positive 2 to be exact. And so b is positive 2. Now m, or the slope. All right. You're going to hear me use a bunch of different vocabulary for m and slope. It's the slope, it's the rate of change, it's many different things. But to find the slope or the rate of change, the best way to do it is to think about it as the change in x over the change in y over the change in x, where these triangles represent delta, a Greek letter. Is a sign. It's used in math and science to mean to change it. So if I pick 2 points on my graph, right? I have one here, I have one here. How much does y change from here to here? Well, it goes from 2 to 4. So how much did it change? It changed by 2. Now, how much did the x change from here to here? It looks like we only go over 1. So the change in y over the change in x is 2 over 1. This is fine to leave it as a fraction, or you can divide 2 divided by 1 is 2. And so the slope, this is not always going to be the case, usually it won't be the case, is the same as the y-intercept. It's also 2. And so now y and x are constants. They don't need to change in this because we don't have variables to really tell us what this is about. And so we just graph our equation as y equals 2x plus 2. Y equals 2x plus 2. All right, this is the equation that represents this graph. These are the same thing, just shown in different formats. And so for the story, I want you to come up with any scenario that could be represented by this graph or by this equation. Well, every linear function has a place where we begin and tells us the constant rate of change. So something starts at 2 and it's changing by 2. So you could say, a fish is 2 inches long. It grows 2 inches every month. A plant is 2 inches tall. It grows 2 inches every week. Mr. Golden has $2. He gains $2 per hour. Right. So anything like that, ideally you'll come up with your own story. I'm not going to write stories, so I need you to listen. It needs to start at 2. And also in this situation, be changing by 2 at a constant rate. So one more example, in case you weren't listening the first time. I've already eaten 2 cookies this year. I eat 2 more cookies every week. All right. So I began at 2 and a constant rate change of 2. All right, example 2. Again, we'll start with a second example just in case you don't get it yet. I know this is a linear function because this is a straight line on the coordinate plane. I'll use the equation y equals mx plus b to graph this. And so to find b, I need to say, where do I intersect the y-axis? A common mistake would be to say that the y-intercept here is 3. This is on the x-axis. We always look at the y-axis. So that starts at 2. Or sorry, I just wrote plus 2. That's a mistake, right? Oops, I just cleared everything out. Y equals mx plus b. Why was that a mistake? Well, this is a negative 2 right here. So this should be a minus 2 as my b. Now, to find to find m, I need to do the change in y over the change in x. So from this point to this point, how much does my y change? Well, y is vertical, and I move vertically 2. And x is horizontal, I move horizontally 1, 2, 3. So my slope, or rate of change is 2/3. All right, so our equation is y equals 2x, 2/3 x minus 2. This equation, this graph are the same thing, just shown differently. Come up with a story of something that starts at -2 and is changing by 2/3. You know, money's a good place to start with negatives. Aaliyah has $2 in debt, -2, and she gains 2/3 a dollar every day, or she gains $2 every 3 days. It's the same thing, all right? Come up with your own story. I don't think I need to write these out for you. All right, go ahead and try the first you do on your own. See if you're getting this lesson. And let me know, or well, don't let me know. I'm doing this virtually. Go ahead, pause, solve, and I'll be here. Okay, hopefully you're done solving. Let's go over it now. Hopefully you attempted it on your own. That's where the learning happens. This is a linear function. It's a straight line. Hopefully you recognize that. So it's y equals mx plus b. B is where we cross the y-axis. Sometimes you'll see the f of x here. We'll talk more about that later. That also means y. Maybe we'll do a lesson on that next week. All right, and so our y-intercept, or b, is +5. And I have another point here. So to figure out my rate of change, or slope, I need to do the change in y over the change in x. So how do I get from here to here? Well, I go down 1, 2. If I go down, we always read graphs from left to right. If I go down, my y needs to be a negative. If I'm going down, my y needs to be a negative. So it's a -2. And then I go over 1, 2, 3. And so my slope is -2/3. Plug in my x and y. The equation that represents this line is y equals -2/3 x plus 5. Again, something is starting at 5 and it's changing by -2/3. It's decreasing. So hopefully you came up with a good story. Don't erase your story to write whatever I say. Hopefully yours already matches. Mr. Golden has $5. He loses $2 every 3 days, or he loses 2/3 a dollar every day. All right, last one. Go ahead and pause. Do it on your own. That's where the learning happens. And then, okay. Go ahead and unpause as I go over this. Sorry, I just checked a text message about something, got distracted. All right, so really quickly, y equals mx plus b. It's a straight line. The y-intercept is +2, right? We cross right here. How much are we changing by? This was a pretty big trick here. Hopefully you caught it. M is equal to the change in y over the change in x. So the change in y, we go from 2 to 3, we go up 1. This was the big catch. We are counting by 2's here. So the change, even though we only go over 1, it looks like we only go over 1. We really went from 0 to 2. So the change in x is 2. The slope is 1/2. We get y equals 1/2 x plus 2. Any story will do that of something that starts at 2 and is changing by +1/2. Let's just say Mr. Golden has $2. He gets 50 cents per day. That's the end of the video. If you have questions, go see your teacher and coach class.